Bienvenidos de nuevo a Oportunidades en Grecia, el podcast en el que tratamos de acercar las oportunidades que, en el marco de la internacionalización, de la exportación, la inversión y la captación de financiación, el país presenta para la empresa española. Welcome again to Oportunidades en Grecia, the podcast where we try to get business opportunities regarding exports and investments in the country, Greece, closer to Spanish companies. Today, in this our 20th episode, we go back to agri-food and more specifically to gourmet high-end products in both food and beverages. It's great to have with us Anna. Anna, hi.
Hi, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm the owner of Civo, Vino, and we are very happy to import Spanish products in Greece and in particular Athens.
It's great to have you here and to give us some of the clues of the high-end agri-food in Greece and specifically in Athens, as you mentioned. Well, Anna is a passionate gourmet food connoisseur, and her culinary journey is an exploration of texture, aroma, and flavor, a relentless pursuit of culinary diversity and expertise. Anna was raised in a vibrant, multicultural kitchen and found herself, from a young age, enchanted by the magic a single dish could conjure, being able to turn this into a business idea. What a wonderful thing to do. Attending fairs, workshops, and travels across continents, which allowed her to indulge in the vast spectrum of gastronomy. As Anna just mentioned, she owns now Civo Vino, a gourmet product franchise with a relevant presence in Attica, Athens. Civo Vino distributes high-end cheese, ham, sausages, anchovies, and wine, of course. Let me very briefly tell the audience what we've been doing lately with regards to agri-food, and we jump quickly into the Q&A. At the Economic and Commercial Office of the Embassy here in Athens, we closely follow what happens in the agri-food sector, and in the last 2 quarters, in 2024, we have deepened into many, let's say, subsectors, trying to generate enough commercial intelligence to understand the potential opportunities that might be there for Spanish companies. We have so seen limited traction when it comes to fruit and vegetables, but big potential in meat, both in bovine and sheep, and in fish and seafood, particularly when canned. We've also found potential in beverages, in alcoholic drinks, in both wine and spirits. When it comes to wine, there is big potential, as we all know, for bulk bottle in the all-inclusive or HoReCa niche. But there is also big potential for high-end wines, since many distributors have started rebuilding their portfolios lately. We have also visited Food Expo. We'll have an opportunity to talk about it, the fair of reference in the region, in the Balkans, but also in the Middle East. And I think we're ready. We're set to go on with the Q&A.
Okay, I could add a few things. That Spanish market for us is a very interesting market because I think it's not saturated. So compared to other markets, it's a huge opportunity for us to be able to open up to products that are not present. And it's not only about products not being present. It's about new tastes, new flavors, and excellent products that need to be shown to the rest of the world. I mean, there is presence of Spanish products all over. Greece, I think, has a limited variety at the moment, and it's a huge opportunity for us and for you guys to show the world and Athens, Greece, what you're capable of. I mean, your cheeses are amazing. We had a great time in the fairs, and I think it's a huge opportunity for all of us.
I'm really glad to hear that, and it's great to hear that coming from you, because I know that you travel the world, you visit many places, many countries, fairs, and so on and so forth, and you see the presence of the Spanish products over there and the potential of those here in the Greek market. I would like to ask you about the demand in the country for this sort of product, this high-end gourmet products. Bear in mind that the country went through a financial crisis in the 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s. And so I would like to see or to know, for you to tell us how that has evolved lately in the last few years. And if you could throw there a couple of ideas regarding the very, very much the specificities of the country in the sense of tourism. The country receives this year very close to 40 million people, huge, and also the specificities that have to do with the Orthodox Easter, if there are any, in the market.
Sure. Look, for me, the demand of gourmet products that I've been following for something like 15 years has always been there. Yes, there have been fluctuations because of the financial crisis and because of less tourism or from different factors, but there is always a gourmet product demand, and I think it always comes down to quality. So if the quality is constant and we always search for products that satisfy more sophisticated palates and palates of any normal person, I'd say that we are on a very good road. Gourmet products is not, for me, a niche market. There are gourmet products that have to be imported in order for people to get to know about them, because they can also be very accessible to an everyday buyer. So we have to maybe distinguish the gourmet product from the point of view that it has to be always expensive. So gourmet products can be a very good product as far as quality is concerned, materials, and the story behind it, because I'm always for the story behind it. I like to support, for example, smaller producers, companies that do well for our environment, and always talking about a sustainable future. So for me, it's more of a market that we can add things to this market, and not a market that is only for a small segment of our society. So me personally, as a person, as an entrepreneur, and a food connoisseur, I'm always for exploration of new tastes, new flavors, and apart from that, it's always about culture. And I think food in Spain is a culture, it's ethos, and it's about the stories behind normal people. That I also saw in my recent trip to Castilla-La Mancha, where we met with ordinary people that have been working the whole of their lives in the same fields, producing excellent products that we know little about them. So it's a very very, very big opportunity, huge for them and for us, because from the other part of the world, we get to know products that are not available up until now.
I'll jump a little bit. I want to ask you all the things, of course, but you mentioned culture, and traditionally, even though, of course, there's always been room for Spanish products of this sort, we felt like it wasn't that easy to enter the market because precisely the cultural approach to some of these products, the culture here in Greece, and tourists that come over, a lot of them, and want to have a Greek experience. How you think there is an opportunity also there, even though pros come from different cultures?
Sure, I think there is always opportunities. I mean, tourism in the later years, obviously you have the tourists that are going to come for the first time, and they're definitely going to go for the local Greek market. But I think if a person is here for more than a few days, he's going to definitely go for a very homely meal, and something that reminds him of either his town, his country, and maybe a flavor that is presented in a different way. So let's say there are a few spaces in Athens that they offer Spanish products, but the way they offer them is very different from the way that they've been offered in Spain up until now. So I think it's a blend of different cultures, and we can use the same ingredients but offer different products. So there's always room for improvement. There's always room for new products. Let's say if we go and talk about ham, if you ask any other person, maybe they'll say we have Serrano ham or Iberico ham. But Iberico ham has many variations. Those are not known. So it's a very good opportunity for us to explain the different PDOs, the different regions, what are the differences in the alimentation of the actual animals, and take it from there. I mean, our customer can choose depending on quality, price, and according to their needs. So we can not alter in a way their needs, but offer different things and get them to know a different culture and blend our different experiences and backgrounds together.
It was really interesting the way you put it when you said there's a lot of storytelling, in the sense that people need to know the story about the product so that they could see or find out differences and value those. And that was very, very interesting. I wanted to ask you also about the main players in the market, from sort of like the supply side. Of course, when it comes to high-end products, there are Greek producers. Probably there are also international producers. I don't know, those come from Italy, France. What's your take in this? Who are the main players in the high-end?
High-end, there is obviously recent Greek producers that try to export their products. So we have gourmet products offered all over the world from Greece. We have the known products like, olive oil, feta, or smaller, let's say, markets as spices. Okay, Greece is known for its spices. We always use, for example, oregano in different recipes, souvlaki, feta. But we are not the main exporters and we are not the main distributors of spices. There are other countries that are much, much larger. For me, that is also an opportunity to present, because we have different flavors compared to Asian countries or other continents. And I would say that also about cheese market, for example. We have a few known cheeses, as we have a few known cheeses from Spain. So there you would go for, let's say, manchego, but it's not only about manchego. There's various other cheeses. There is mahon, there is cabrales, there are other PDOs. There are smaller producers that are trying to keep their products alive. We tasted a few of them on our trip in Spain last April, and we were amazed by the quality. Of course, it's not always about quality, it's about quantity. So there you have to measure if a company is able to produce and sustain a chain of distribution. So for me, it's not about having a cheese for the whole of the year. We can have it seasonally. We can explain to our customers that a cheese, for example, is not available the whole year because there is not enough milk for the whole of the year. And that's the nice part of our job. I mean, we have to eat seasonally. We have to respect the environment, respect the producers, and give time for maturation. Because if we try always to rush things, the quality is compromised. And for me, quality is number one.
That's why I said, and you said also that storytelling is very important. The consumers do need to know that it's about seasonal consumption so that they can understand there might be a difference in prices, I guess.
And let me, sorry to interrupt,
of course.
About the main players and the producers. So if I was to rate, in Greece, of course, there are many Greek producers that are trying to interact, let's say, with the tourists that come over, or they're trying to interact with different countries with the export part. But then there are different countries, let's say, like Italy, that are they have a huge presence, not only in Greece, but in different other countries, because their product is very marketed. So for me, also for you guys, it would be very interesting to market some of your products in a different way in order for them to become more accessible. Because when one talks about Spanish ham, let's say, there is always this misconception that it's overly priced and it's like high-end product. It can be a high-end product, and it is in terms of quality, but Serrano ham is much, much better for me compared to normal Italian prosciutto, whereas in Greece, normal prosciutto is not being sold. We have like just Parma ham and, let's say, San Daniele, which is only two of their hams as well. You have loads of hams, different opportunities, flavors, maturity, and they can also be marketed in a way that it's more accessible. Because from my experience going into supermarkets, fairs, when I visit Spain, I have visited many, many different cities, you can see that everyone eats ham every day. They can go to pub, they can go to restaurants, so it's an everyday food. Why do we think that we cannot have it every day? So that's a misconception. I don't know, maybe because it hasn't been marketed enough, or maybe it's just a misconception because we Greeks haven't been able so far to make it available in different cities. So let's say Athens is a very easy, accessible town, a lot of tourism, but okay, obviously we can serve different restaurants around the country that would like to have an addition to their menu. So that's something that we need to work on, and I'm very glad I have this opportunity to work.
It is true. I know it from my experience in the region. I was also posted in Belgrade for 5 years that the tradition when it comes to ham in the area is more Italian hams. The two brands that you mentioned were also traditionally consumed in Serbia at the time, and they're consumed here in Greece. I wanted to ask you about prices. What do you expect for the future when it comes to gourmet products? Will it happen like it's been happening with high-end products in other sectors, let's say restaurants, hotels, rentals, due to the pressure probably of tourism and other forces? Look,
pricing for me is always an issue or a challenge, let's say. Obviously, it's a matter of each company's values. I think that we should make gourmet products available to a bigger audience. We should be able to have different pricing. Let's say pick a company that has more ranges and make all their ranges available. Let's say if we were to talk about oil is vastly produced in Greece, in Italy, in Spain. But here in Greece, we are not aware of your different varieties. So we could, for example, try and import different varieties and make them available in bigger or smaller quantities in gourmet shops. And there you would have, for example, an olive oil with a very different and distinct flavor, because that's about flavors and distinctions, because these flavors are not available here. So we'd have like our olive oils that are Kalamata, Cretan. So there we have less varieties, but you have loads of varieties. I recently tasted Alberkina, I tasted different ones. And you have PDO producers that they would like for us to import an olive oil, use it in a salad, use it in a special gourmet dish. So you would have a niche market, which is the fine dining. And there we could offer them like olive oil for them to use on a dip, on a first dish. You could have an olive oil for a salad. You could have an olive oil for a dessert. I've seen many chefs use olive oil for the desserts. So there are opportunities. It's all lies to our, let's say, availability, openness, and I think maybe also trial and error, and try to alter the market in a good way. Try to educate them. Try to not only tell the story, but explain the differences and the good things, the bad things, and how we could all live together and respect the environment. So we don't have to overproduce here, for example, some products. We could also import other products from other places that they are stronger, easier, and they give like work to more workers. So let's say when the climate conditions change, we can use the assets of different key players as Spain. Spain is a huge country producer. We are not. We have been restricted in recent years, but I think we could make it. We could change things.
I was going to use the term also educating the consumer, which is a term that came in the previous podcast when we were talking about wine, precisely. But yeah, and it goes hand in hand with the storytelling that you mentioned. And I think that's the only way so the people can understand that there are different varieties of oils that can change completely the taste of a dish, and so on, and that can be used for many different purposes from those that we traditionally use as a dressing of a salad, yes, or to cook, right? You mentioned desserts, which is, of course, some very interesting part of it. Let me ask you a little bit about distribution. Now here, when we talk about agri-food, we traditionally talk about the classic channel, right? So we talk about importer, distributor, agent. I want to ask you, what are the roles in the high-end gourmet products of these traditional ones, but also what do you think is the chunk of the market, the part of the market that e-commerce does, if any, when it comes to gourmet products, right? Whether it's an e-shop, your own e-shop, or a third-party e-shop, or whether you could eventually sell in platforms.
You definitely can sell in platforms. There are, let's say, some players in e-shops. There are mainly either companies that are importers, distributors, and work sometimes like as agents. They have, let's say, a limited portfolio. They have it limited not in a way that they have just a few products. For me, they have a limited portfolio because they always go in exploiting, let's say, the traditional requested products. So there, for me, makes a difference for us, and for me it's a huge challenge to be able to present different products. So we're not going to go for the traditionals. We are no longer going to supply the market with what is only requested at the moment, because that for me is formed from trends, different trends that are acknowledged from local players and brought into sooner than later. So I would be more of a pioneer, try and locate products that are of my interest and of a possible interest to a general audience, and take it from there. Like you mentioned earlier about the anchovies. We went to a local fish, let's say, trader, and he had 10, 12 different kind of canned fishes. And for us, the mostly known is anchovies, but there were 12 different varieties of fish that are not exported to Greece, and they are least exported in other countries. So the request is based on the chef's request. Like they have like a normal size that they would add the anchovies, they would eat them raw, and that's it. But you have 12 different varieties that we can use. So that's the different fishes that we can present. Of course, Greece has a market for raw fish, and it's eaten in a local taverna. But for the high-end market, for gourmet products, they are not present. So that's a good opportunity. So there you have the differences in packaging, pricing, and of course, the accessibility. So we could go for a very nice package with a very good price and get it over to the local market, and then obviously use a high-end package for maybe a gourmet restaurant to sell the product, for a deli place to also add this variety, but that would be only for the higher-end consumers. So if we forget about gourmet products and their association with a high-end market just for a clientele, which is like a 2%, I would rather go for 5, 10% and even more. So for a person to feel free to buy a gourmet product, not only for Christmas, not only for Easter, but all year round. Because from my experience in the last 10 years owning a deli shop, I've been in the import-distribute market for much, much longer. It's more than 15 years, but as a deli owner, it's been 10 years. I've seen that people have this different perception when it comes to feasts. So let's say the most important is the Orthodox Easter, as well as Christmas, and there they feel free to spend a little bit more. But why shouldn't they spend not a little bit more, spend the same as they would spend, but choose a different product? A different product, not only about its taste, but its background, and it can be imported and have the same price with a local product. So it's not about not having the local market work no longer, but having an addition to the everyday food. So let's say if they would choose feta every day, they could choose feta every other day. Not just to diminish or to change the quantities, but it's a nice alteration. So it's a nice addition. And for me, it's about surely education and culture, but about quality in the materials. So let's say I would go for eating less, but eating better. Because we know in recent years, because of financial crisis and the different roles countries play in this, there has been a demand for cheaper products. But cheap doesn't mean always good. So for me, if you go for cheap later on you'll have trouble So if you go for higher end products and fairly priced, then you have longevity, you have sustainability, and you work towards a better future for all of us, not only for us, because I mean, our kids have to learn about these values, the values of the companies, the values of the entrepreneurs that respect the market. So for me, fairly priced products are worth the while.
There is a lot of work to be done there when it comes to promoting the goods, and we'll jump into that a bit later. But it's also very interesting that you mentioned the strategy to tackle 5 to 10% of the market instead of the 2% of the market that is just high-end, pure high-end, traditional. And I believe that when it comes to this world of international activity, import, export, there are tons of inertias in the markets. So people keep doing the same thing because it worked. They keep doing the same. We tend not to think a little bit out of the box. And there are opportunities there for entrepreneurs that want to, go
out
through
of the box thinking is always a good thing. I mean, you spoke about wine, that I didn't jump into any conclusions, but I did get to taste different wines. I'm not a person that drinks a lot of wine. I don't drink much, if not any, but I like to taste it, and I am a connoisseur of also wine. I've been to different workshops. I know about wine. I enjoy it when I drink it, mostly in company. But you have excellent wines. Very well known, like Rioja, that everybody knows, and you have...
Well, there we have an issue also here, because people know about Spanish wines, but they basically know about Rioja wines.
Of
so
course,
there you can
that's
find
the
Rioja
issue,
almost everywhere. So many different varieties. You can find some of them in some of the stores, but it's not easy. And what people know is Rioja, which is a wonderful wine.
We went to a winery, and I was amazed because they have a traditional local wine that they make, as well as traditional local cheese that they're trying to keep in place, because it's only produced in their production site and one other. So there are two in the whole of Spain. And then you had their wine, which was excellent. And they also had imported like different blends from France. And they were trying to make different varieties. And that was very, very interesting, because they kept their original varieties and they tried to export them. But then you have different key players with whom they met, and then I asked about their feedback, for example, and they were like, okay, we don't want our wine to be left on a shelf, be imported, but not being presented in the way that it has to be. So that's a key out of the box thinking for me, to have a wine presented, offer it to people every day, like for an aperitivo, for just a drink after work, or everyday wine, and then it will come naturally by itself. So there you will have the placement coming from the people and the audience, which will obviously appreciate the product.
I think it's precisely there we have to work probably together to promote local or Greek distributors, and also try to promote those wines that are less known and might stay in the shelves for longer.
Exactly. No,
because
totally agree.
So it goes hand in hand with storytelling, with educating, promoting our wines, our food, and so on and so forth. You've been talking a lot. I could feel it in the conversation about things that have to do with future demand as we perceive it. So what we have detected is that in high-end gourmet, name it as you want, there are future trends on consumption that have to do with health, gluten-free, flexitarian diets, and so on and so forth. What do you think is going to be the role of all of these changes that we can already see in the market, and how would those level with what big distribution is doing with the store brand and things like that?
Nice question. Look, for me...
are these two markets completely disconnected?
No, they are connected. The thing for me is more about, what does high-end product mean? Is it high-end because of its qualities as organoleptic properties? Is it high-end because of its package? Is it high-end because the product, the actual product it contains is high-end? So what is high-end? I mean, we have to start from there, defining what is high-end for different people, because there I think there is a misconception. High-end sometimes means very expensive, so that's purely either marketing or purely a very, very good product that has this acquired value because of its story, its background, and its market. We have a very nice product, let's say botarga. Botarga, for example, can be Greek, it can be Italian, it can also be Spanish. Who exports this product better? I don't have the answer, but I know that our botarga, for example, is being exported all over the world. Is this a very, very high-end product? It could be. It's a very niche product. It's a product that can be produced by only a few, and it has to do with the availability of the fish. But can it be widely distributed? No, because its taste is very particular. It's only for a few, let's say, because it cannot be an everyday product. Surely about its price, because it's priced, fairly priced, let's say. But there you've got the different pricing policies of different countries. So let's say if we were to compare botarga, Spanish botarga, Italian botarga, and Greek, in a blind tasting, let's say, I don't know what the answer would be. Same goes for olive oil, because olive oil is being mixed later in the later years because the availability of olive oil is not as it used to be. So there, could you distinguish if the olive oil is Spanish, Greek, Italian? So talking about the gourmet product, for me, it's more about education. It's more about explaining to the customer that a gourmet product is a various of things. It's not only one thing. It's not only price. So there you would definitely have a higher percentage of people requesting this product. So we would go for from the 2% to 5% to the 10% gradually. But then talking about the organoleptic values of each of the products, I think for the future, people are trying to eat healthier. They're trying to avoid certain things, let's say gluten. They're trying to find ways to not only be, let's say, healthier, but trying to understand the different trends. So for me, if we go back to basics, it's always healthier. So we don't need all of these products in our everyday life. We can go back to basics, eating less, eating more raw products, being able to understand what our bodies ask for, because that's what our parents used to do, our grandparents. They used to live in the fields. They used to have their own local products. So that, I think, needs to be maintained. Obviously, you have many different companies working on 0 kilometers. So let's say they are only available to local markets. That's very nice, very romantic. We could try to value also those products and try to see what's the difference. So we could talk about flour, we could talk about pasta, we could talk about ham. So would somebody be able to understand what Pedrose's ham, for example, tastes different because it's in the mountains, it's in the forest. It's not about them eating just different alimentations. So there obviously you have an aftertaste. But that, for me, is a challenge. We could educate our consumers to understand that the taste, the aftertaste, has to do what the animal has been fed. So that's also something to change. And we have like eggs that you can have differences in the local market, and you always have on the shelf, you have the different eggs, and you have the comparison of the alimentation of the animal. So there it's very present that you choose according to their alimentation and their price. Maybe a normal person would understand the difference and they always go for the cheaper one. But that also goes for different products. I think that's the main thing that we have to work on, to understand that our intakes has to do with our longevity, sustainability, and that also works for our environment. So whatever we give our environment, that's what happens next day. We don't have enough olive oil because we don't have a lot of rain, because the planet is reacting now at the moment to the changes. So if we were to work with companies that are pro-sustainability, then we would make a huge impact to our world, to the products that are being produced, and maybe we'll have better produced products, less perhaps, but that's a good thing for me. So we'll have a good product offered to the market, but then it would be a global good.
There's clearly a big demand for all of that, for all of what you're mentioning. We can see it also in the so-called food tech sector. There's big demand for apps or tools that might help track what happens with the food, where the food is where the food comes from, or what happens to the food all through the transportation,
and
distribution
traceability,
channel.
So
I think traceability is very important, and tracking that is very important. And we see big demand, have a big cluster on food tech in Spain, and the people are working a lot on this side of it. So there's a lot of interest for reading and knowing exactly what you are consuming.
And consumers are
because there is sensitivity.
Yeah.
Growing sensitivity towards these things. I wanted to ask you, but we've been talking about ethos, storytelling, educating, and somehow promoting differently, marketing the things different, and so on and so forth. There's some very big events here in Greece when it comes to food, agri-food, Food Expo. I mentioned it before. I would say it's the biggest international fair in the region.
Sure.
Oreca, but also Oreca, midday frozen food, and so on and so forth. We also have fairs in Spain. We happened to have you visit Salon Gourmet a few months ago. We would say that this is the most important fair for high-end products in Europe.
Certainly is. I found it very, very interesting.
We celebrated 37th edition in 2024. I was checking out some data from the fair yesterday. 100,000 professionals visited, 2,000 pavilions, 55,000 products. So it's quite a big thing. I wanted to ask you, how did it go? Your visit experience, the fair, the subsequent trip. What do you see there? Products, innovative approaches. What do you find out?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity you gave me.
No,
it was one of a kind, and I've been in different fairs around of the world, and I think it was, if not the best, one of the best. I'd say the best, but I don't want you to think I'm biased. It was one of the best fairs, not only because they had high-end products. The people there made the difference, the products themselves, the availability of the product to the consumer, to the buyer. So you would not only see the product, but you would be able to taste it. So once you taste it, you can understand it. It's not only about packaging, image, promotion, and trying to persuade a customer, a buyer, an importer, an agent, to buy a product just by seeing it. So if you have to taste it, you can taste it, and then you can tell its story. And most of the entrepreneurs there were the owners of the companies. They had their employees, but they were the key players in the growth of each of the companies. So you would have, for example, a producer of a Basque cheesecake. They would make this cheesecake with a local recipe, and now they're exporting it all over the world. So there you have a very high-end product which can be exported, but you would never think that one wouldn't make the cake using a recipe, but they would export it frozen all over the world. You would have maybe all different kinds of hams, and there you would have the producers explain the differences in the alimentation, as was previously said, in the market values of the company and the values of the owners and each of the employees that would work. So you would have smaller companies that were prone to exporting their product and getting to know their product, whereas you would have bigger players, obviously, that would like to get into supermarkets, which also that we spoke about it earlier, that gourmet products can be available to a bigger audience, so that's very important as well. And it was very present in the Salon Gourmet that you had very high-end products, fairly priced, nicely packaged, but still packaged in a different way and priced in a different way in order for them to be more accessible, but not by compromising quality, which is very, very important, because that is also, for me, a misconception. You have very good brands trying to export the product, but because its price is not that high, it's not well appreciated. So there we need to find a balance for what it stands. Does it stand as a product that is fairly priced and very nicely packaged, but it can stand in a supermarket? Or you have a very high-end product that it can only be on a shelf of a deli, and then if the consumer doesn't know about it, he's going to choose it by chance. So you don't want to have this by chance. You have to educate the customer, and you have to choose different products. You also had, like in the fair, different tortas, which are not known here. So it's a very nice presented product that you can have on your shelf for more than 12 months. It's handmade, but it's not well known here. But it's a tradition of different villages. It's a tradition of small companies that are sustainable and work towards a better tomorrow for them and their families. So it's a family business that can keep on going as long as the players in it want to continue working for it. We visited, as you said, a region, which was Castilla-La Mancha in my case, and we got to meet cheese producers, ham producers, oil producers, canned professionals. There was also a very nice new product, which is not, it's fairly new. It's garlic that is black. So you have this black garlic trend in recent years. But they were explaining that this is a product that they have been making for many, many years back. And it's just a matter of warming it up and cooking it in a certain temperature, and that's why it's black. It's not a variety. So that was a revelation for me. Although I used to sell it, and I do sell it now, I didn't know about it. I thought it was cooked. I thought, but it has very nice specs, as health specs, and that's interesting because you have a very normal product, agricultural product, and that can be planted anywhere. You can have the raw material and be able to produce it in different areas. And then you have the difference in the way it's being packed, the way the people work. So they had a very, very nice environment, for example. It was very familiar. You had the mother, the sons, the daughters, and the employees. So there you could see the beginning and the end and the whole procedure in between. And that was being done in like 2, 3, 4 hours a day. And then you would have preparations, machinery. But that goes for a lot of products. So from there, we could work on the packaging. We could work on these products being available, as you said, in Food Expo, in Horeca. Horeca is mainly known for hotels. But even in hotel, you can add, for example, a small sample of Spanish olive oil, because you have international Spanish or different, let's say, companies that have not an owner, but their shares are owned by different entrepreneurs, Spanish also entrepreneurs. So there you would have their touch on their own business. So you'd have an olive oil that would be from their, let's say, hometown, or a variety that's less known here, but then it would be available to a bigger audience. And there you would have someone to know about a variety that they never knew before. So that's a way to promote, and it can be done, I think. I mean, different brands try to enter either the local market by being present, let's say, in the airport, in smaller niche hotels. So there you have a taste the morning you arrive, next day, and you can add it in every day. So then maybe you would ask for it in a deli, on a local shop, even if it's a gourmet product.
Yeah, those are the ways to go. Clearly widening, well, first of all, informing or educating the audience, widening the demand, and then making the product available one way or another, so they eventually can, if they like it, go buy it. I always ask this question by the end of the conversation: how do you think we could further promote Spanish goods? Of course, we've been talking about the fairs, the local fairs, Greek fairs, Food Expo, and so on and so forth. Fairs also in Spain, so bring people to Spain to see the products and try it. We're most probably going to do some direct promotion through what we call Taste Spain, which is we bring someone from Spain to explain things to prescriptors. We do coupling of wines and cheeses and chovis and all those things. What do you think is missing?
I think there is nothing missing. I think it's only to tackle the issue maybe from different angles, and being able to promote the different values and ethos of the Spanish producers. So let's say Spanish products can be distinguished for their quality, their smaller production, their taste. So if we were to compare it with other big key players in the market, you would have a different marketing perspective. But there, I think the Spanish product lacks not the marketing, but the way to enter the market and be known for their own products. So, as we talked earlier, ham. Not many consider Spanish ham a very accessible product, but you have Serrano ham, which is excellent, and it's maybe even easier to buy it every day, because I think the prices in Spain are a bit lower at the moment. Looking at the catalogs that I was sent and trying to establish new partnerships, I see that, and then you have differences in the product. It's a fresh, very aromatic product. It's a very less manufactured product, so it has less additives. It can have less additives compared to other hams. And we are known in Greece to eat a lot of meat, for example. So, okay, meat eating is something which is considered like less healthy, but still we eat it. So we could add Spanish ham on an everyday diet. We could add it on a sandwich. We can add it on a recipe. So that would be not changing what we have been eating so far, but eating something also different. And that goes for also the anchovies. We said we have anchovies from the local market, but still we don't have from Cantabrico. So there you have a different...
Classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. But you see, we have to value each product for what it is. So it's not only about importing and exporting, it's about valuing the products and being able to penetrate the market. And as you also said earlier, there are many, many opportunities. I think we only need to tackle it from a different point of view. And in terms of promotion, I think it's about education. As you said earlier, we spoke about it long. Educating, I will tell you a short story. I was on my own traveling when I was 17. I went to a tennis camp. I used to play tennis. So I took the plane on my own and I went to camp outside Barcelona. And there you would sleep in, play tennis the whole day, and eat in. I really cannot remember what I had been eating all those days. What I can really remember is the canteen, that they would have sandwiches during the day, and I would go and order a bocadillo con jamón y tomato. And that's one of the tastes. It has been like a taste. I can still taste it today. And the other food I cannot remember. Why I cannot remember, I cannot tell you, but probably it wasn't something distinctive. Whereas a simple bocadillo made from very simple ingredients, tomato that you have also very available, and you did nothing. You needn't spend a lot, and you can eat it in my shop. You can come over, have a sandwich for the day, and you don't have to add any sauce. So for me, that's the education. You have to eat it raw. You have to understand things. That's what I also tell my customers. I mean, they come over and they're like, why don't you have sauce? Why don't you have butter? Why don't you have this, that? I'm like, I don't want to. I want you to have freshly baked bread, some perhaps salad, that would be a tomato maybe, or not even, just jamón, for example. And why not? Or add a small touch of olive oil. And that's what you also eat. I mean, I went to have a few tapas while there, and that was it. Some cheese, some beer, it's very simple. So we make, I think, lives difficult. We can go back to being simpler, and that's the way to enter a huge audience.
A lot of keynotes there to touch. Let me go very briefly back to a couple ideas that I took from the conversation, which was very rich, I think. Well, very important. What is high end? And this is something that I take from. It's a question that you ask and you answer, which is very important to answer if you want to do business in high end ingredients, packaging, and so on and so forth, and how you could eventually change a little bit the concept so that you could tackle a bigger audience. You talked about, if that is the case, a demand of a certain size being always there, even through the crisis. You talk as well about widening or broadening the audience, and in order to do that, well, playing with the ingredients, packaging, and many other things. Different strategies, therefore, to maybe go from 1% to 2%, 2% to 5% to 10% of the community. I found very interesting. We went through this many times through the conversation. You talk about culture, you talk about ethos, you talk about storytelling, and educating people.
Yeah, I mean, they're just not to interrupt, but I think also sustaining and help to sustain smaller companies, smaller producers. That makes us better entrepreneurs, better people, because we don't have to be huge. So let's say we can have a gourmet product available, but maintaining the locality and the values of the families that work towards it, and they have always worked for it. So that's something. That's why I would say it's key to understand that gourmet product is a gourmet product. It's not a product that can be over available. But we have to keep it in place so it stays a good product.
It takes me to something that you mentioned also in the conversation. You talk about quality, but you talk also about quantity.
Yeah.
And explaining about the quantity, seasonality, and so on and so forth. You said the market is not at all saturated of Spanish goods, which is very good to hear. And then we talk about promotion. We're doing things. We can do more things, so the product can be better known by the consumers. So thank you very much, Anna, for joining us today.
I thank you a lot.
Big pleasure for us to have you here.
Same-wise.
Y nosotros nos vemos de nuevo en Oportunidades en Grecia. Aún hay mucho sobre lo que hablar. Financiación multilateral, equipamiento en el sector eléctrico, banca de desarrollo local. Hasta pronto.